Hi, guys, and welcome back to the studio sessions. My name is Brooke, and every week we talk about movies, why we love movies, why we don't love certain movies, what we don't love about certain movies, and filmmaking. So let's hop in. As usual, to kick off this week's episode, here are this week's studio notes. So the first one I want to talk about is a Paramount or Warner Mount update. There hasn't been like decisive things happening. It's in a holding pattern where they're waiting for these hearings to happen. There's some trial hearings that are going to happen. There's some court things majorly happening. So all of it is kind of stalled for that. What is interesting to note is David Ellison, who is the CEO of Paramount, has made comments about preparing to leave California. I first heard this, I think, a few weeks ago, but since then, like within the last several days, it's gotten to be a more serious talking point where it seems like that's a closer thing to happening than it was. And specifically on Matt Bellamy's Instagram account, he was posting quotes. I can't remember if it was from an episode of The Town or his Puck newsletter, but it was quoting his writing on this, saying that David Ellison had said if the merger didn't go through, he was absolutely planning to move out of California. And so that I thought was interesting. We're kind of starting to see more happening where studios see that as more of an option, where Hollywood is no longer the need to be place for the industry. And I thought that was interesting. The second thing I want to talk about is just more sequels. We have some more Shrek sequels. We have Princess Diaries 3 being talked about more. Anne Hathaway made comments. Julie Andrews today has confirmed she will not be a part of Princess Diaries 3. At her age, I'm sure she's more stepping back from things and probably just not really interested in being in things anymore. And so that has been a major pattern still. So I wanted to touch on that continuing to be a pattern. Like I said, I don't think that pattern is going to stop anytime soon. Stay prepared for sequels, reboots, mostly sequels of like stuff from the early 2000s. It's been really interesting. I feel like I say this every time I talk about that. Some of these I feel like make sense. Some of them I'm like, think you were searching for something to apply this to. Don't know if this is one everybody was really looking for. Or would be a scenario like Devil Wears Prada 2, where people are like, they hear about it and they're like, oh, I didn't know I need that, but I'm down for it. There's difference. So yeah, interesting. And studio note 3. This is a bit of a personal one. I wanted to give a slight production update. I'm working on the production schedule. I'm in development still, finishing my conversations with everybody, and I'm now at the point where I'm going to start scheduling filming and scheduling production. So it's really exciting. Pray for me. I am so determined to make this work well. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be at this point. That is what I'm working on if you wanted a little production update. And that is this week's studio notes. Now I want to talk about something that is connected to production updates and my current project, but also kind of just a interesting creative position to be in for myself. I want to talk a little bit about what I've experienced over the last couple of years going through posting on my YouTube channel to then making the film and kind of where I'm at right now. So, quick little history on me. I started on YouTube 12 years ago at this point because I started my channel to document planning our wedding. And we got engaged January 2014. And so if you go very back, those are my first videos talking about planning the wedding and being engaged. And then after we got married, newlywed life, all of that. And I really had a lot of fun with that. And my content really evolved from like daily vlogs, just life, to actually starting to document Turner syndrome stuff. That is when my channel really blew up, was when I started talking about Turner syndrome, because that wasn't really a thing then. It's a pretty niche thing right now. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still a very niche topic, not a very well known genetic condition, very select people talking about Turner syndrome. But back then, it was even less discussions happening, and certainly not a YouTube channel dedicated to it or talking about it as much as I was in the way that I was. And so there was a response that shocked me. It took me by surprise. And it is what led to building my community I have, to growing my channel, because people were looking for that type of thing. People were getting this diagnosis. Younger girls were looking for ways to process and understand what was going on with them. And so it was incredible to have that opportunity. And it all culminated in making my film Like a Butterfly. Link down in the description if you have not seen it yet. It's on my website. I hope you enjoy it if you go watch it. If you've watched it, then you will know it basically tells my story, but also there's some other incredible women that shared their story in the film too. And it was a project of love. I was so excited. I told the story of what prompted me to make the documentary, but I think one aspect of it that I anticipated, but I didn't know how it would impact me after, was my creative flow for everything else. A documentary we've talked about is a big project. Even one that doesn't have heavy production filming, maybe like there's not a ton of new filming to do. There's very select filming to do for new clips. Even in that scenario, I was spending hours going through my old YouTube content, pulling out clips, trying to then find the raw footage of certain ones, which was a whole thing. Taught me a lot about the value of having that better organized. That's a different conversation. And it was still very work intensive, intense editing. And I spent hours working on that. And it really put me in a position where while I was making it, I didn't have much capacity to create the smaller style content on my channel like I had been. So for my channel and my podcast, those things slowed down at different points, just stopped completely. And I had to, each time I would try to have a moment to get back to it, kind of try to ramp back up. It just wasn't there. And then after I finished the film, I'm just now, even a year and a half from when I released the film, getting back into a rhythm where I'm more regularly creating in those other avenues, the smaller scale um, style content instead of those bigger projects. And I am currently working on a bigger project again on the follow up documentary, like we talked about, like I shared a production update for. But I think this time I'm more intentionally trying not to lose that, try not to lose that pattern, try not to lose that routine, because it does help me. Even in the midst of needing to stay head down, focused on a bigger project, having those moments to come up for air where I can do something new and something that is just to create. It's just to have that outlet. It's just to use that muscle and not have it be in this pressurized vacuum of this bigger project. I think that's going to be more valuable this time around. I think I'm going to benefit a lot from that. And so, one of the things I've had to do, because I didn't anticipate that routine break being as big as it was for my channel, is create those habits again, is get back into intentionally making time to have that type of creative outlet, because it's not all I'm focused on. I'm also focused on my bigger project. And this time around, I have two little kids. I'm homeschooling them. And I lead a much busier life than when I first started like a butterfly. About a third of the way through was when the kids came into the picture. But um I I have a much fuller, busier life now than I did last time. And so I have to be more intentional, but I also feel like through some of those things, I've learned a lot in how to do that more. And so I wanted to talk about that routine of creativity, of having that art, that outlet that you just have as the outlet. No stakes involved, no other purpose other than because you want to. And just having fun with it and being creative. There is so much life that that brings. And I think one thing that I am not only working on, regardless of the bigger project, but will help me with the bigger project also, is the life that that brings, the freshness to the creative muscles that that keeps. And it gives you that time that for me is very life-giving. um, I think as artists, as filmmakers, as creators in whatever capacity, but we talk about filmmaking on this podcast. Filmmaking, when it's work, when it's higher stakes, when there's a bigger project, is amazing. And it is such a blessing and privilege to be able to have something like that. That is something you do that feeds you, be something you can also have bring money in. That's incredible. That's a privilege that I would never take for granted. The fact that people paid to see my film that I made, I I will never be able to put into words how grateful I am for that and how much of a blessing it is to me that that kind of work that I love so much had that opportunity. However, that can change your mindset with it. You can be so focused on the purpose and the mission and the higher stakes of that project that it can make it feel more like work, if that makes sense. It's still a privileged job, right? Like getting to make a film for money is an incredible honor, but that doesn't mean it's not work. And so having that opportunity for that creative outlet to just be the creative outlet where sure, if extras happen, it happens, but like you're just doing this for the sake of doing it, for the sake of wanting to, for the creative outlet of it. That is important to not lose. I think, so that you remember the life-giving aspect to it for you. That really is a really important creative role for you and that you love. And I think that keeps those creative muscles moving and working and not stuck nose down focused on one lane of it. Um, where you're able to have those moments of coming up for air and getting that blessing of just doing it for the sake of the love of doing it. I think that's really beautiful. And I think what I'm hoping happens this time around is I am able to keep that going at the same time that I'm working on bigger projects. So I get to have fun creating for my channel, doing the podcasts, but also getting to use that in my creative juices for documentary. And I can see how that would really feed that. So I'm really excited to see that. So I have been giving myself that reminder, and if you're a filmmaker too, if you have a different creative outlet that you love, I hope this serves as a reminder for you also to, yes, do the big projects, but also give yourself permission to do the smaller projects that are kind of only for the love of doing it, not because there's these higher stakes. And I think that's important too, in a lot of ways. That's what I'm learning and implementing now. And so I thought I would talk about that. If you have watched my channel, you might have seen this happening and either noticed that that's what it might have been as far as why there was fewer videos, or maybe you just didn't even know. Either way, I have been so happy getting back on that horse and back into that routine, and I can feel the difference it makes for me with like just happiness it brings me. It's it's my favorite creative outlet is this form of creation. And so any form of it I get to do, I really enjoy and love. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. If you have experiences with it, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. And I hope this was helpful and encouraging to you. A little sneak peek into my current creator brain, my current filmmaking experience, and way my brain is currently working within this. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for hanging out with me again, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. The Studio Sessions is a Butterfly Entertainment production. You can keep up with all of our podcasts, YouTube videos, films, and other projects on our Instagram page. We are at Butterfly Entertainment Group. Thanks for listening.